How's it going, everyone? It's Adam from Life of Adam, and today I'm back with a brand new lifeguarding tip video. In today's video, I'm going to tell you guys how to study for the lifeguard final exam. I've made a video on this in the past, and I recently got some inspiration just answering some emails about like, wait, I should really make another video talking about how to study because the tests have changed over time. It's not the same questions. So I'm going to make an updated version about how I would study. So I'm going to give you guys my tips on how I pass all of them so that you guys can pass all of them and become a lifeguard. Now, before I dive into this, if you guys are new to the channel, I make a bunch of lifeguarding content about how to pass the course, how to pass the pre-test, basically everything you need to know about becoming a lifeguard and being a lifeguard. So definitely consider subscribing and liking the video if you're new to the channel. And also check out down below in the description, I have a course on Teachable that will help anyone who's interested in becoming a lifeguard, but they're not sure if they're a good enough swimmer. It'll basically walk you through the swim test at the beginning so you can pass on your first try, no problems. Now let's dive right into it. Just to get this out of the way, I'm gonna tell you guys, and a lot of lifeguards would agree with me, you don't have to read the entire lifeguard textbook front to back, remember every minute detail, remember every chapter in order to pass the final exam. I didn't read the textbook when I got recertified the last 3 times. Like, all that information kind of passively stays in your mind when you take the lifeguarding course for the first time. And a lot of the questions are common sense. So if you pick the safest, most cautious option that it takes into account like all the factors and goes about it like in a procedural way, this usually the right answer over the one that cuts corners but still does the same like overall end task and end goal. So if that makes sense, just the one that's the safest is usually the right answer. So you don't need to read the entire textbook front to back. However, the first thing I would recommend though is to know terminology, know definitions, know acronyms like the Haynes technique, RICE, all those things. You also need to know about like certain conditions like emergencies like hypothermia, overheating, stroke, heart attack. You need to know what the symptoms are. That's very important. So if you see an old man come up to you, his face is droopy, he has like a half smile, his right arm or his left arm can't lift as high as his right, he's kind of like divided, you know those are symptoms for a stroke. That's very important because you'll get questions on that. So after you kind of like know terminology, know acronyms, you know like symptoms for certain first aid conditions, you also need to know specifics in terms of the numbers of like CPR, rescue breathing, AED. You need to know the tempo and obviously the reasons for stopping CPR. There's like 6 of them. Now, when I took the recertification courses, I had a separate exam. So I had an online CPR AED exam, and like the written exam was just first aid and like pool stuff. But some courses have it all together as one big final exam. So you have to be very well rounded and know the details for CPR AED when you approach this written exam, because you'll be asked what's considered one circuit for CPR, like stuff like that. How many compressions in one circuit for an adult, an infant, a child? Now, another super helpful tip to get you conditioned on like what kind of questions you might get asked is to look at Quizlets and look at like past lifeguarding tests. So if you Google like lifeguard practice questions, you'll get a Quizlet, and obviously it's not gonna be word for word for what you see on the exam, but it'll get you a gist of like what kind of questions they might ask. The wording's different, but the concepts are all the same. So you can kind of practice and see like, okay, do I know a lot about this first aid? Do I know a lot about using the AED? Do I know a lot about like bad weather and like pool closings or like nosebleeds, stuff like that? They'll ask you questions and you can see if you got it right. And also, if you Google like lifeguard test A or lifeguard test B, you can see old versions of lifeguarding tests. So you can kind of get a preview of like what kind of tricky questions they might ask you and what answers kind of look right, but aren't actually the correct answer. It'll help you study and help you test yourself before you actually take it. Now, another tip is to utilize the materials that your instructor gave you. So like during the class time, the classroom work that you do some days you're in the pool, some days you're in the classroom, your instructor will give you worksheets with diagrams on them. Like for me, I had a big chart of like step by step of like CPR rescue breathing. They have a pulse, but they aren't breathing. It's like an arrow goes right to rescue breathing. You keep doing it. Okay, there's a clogged airway. It's a choking victim. Like it has arrows and it connects, and also is like a diagram about reasons to stop CPR. So like equal training, higher training, AED arrives. The scene becomes unsafe, you see signs of life, like stuff like that. And for me, like writing things out is a lot better to like memorize than like reading it from a screen. So if you want to, you can write out terminology on a piece of paper, you can draw out diagrams, you can circle and highlight things. Just utilize the worksheets that you get in the folder during your class. Do not forget about them because they can come in handy. So I hope you guys enjoyed this video and found it helpful. Definitely like and subscribe if you're new to the channel, and I'll see you on the next video. Thanks so much for watching. Peace out.